When you hear the name Phoebe Cates, something happens. A flash of the 1980s, a red bikini, the sound of a movie soundtrack, and suddenly you're back in an era when certain faces didn't just appear on screen, they seemed to define an entire generation. Cates became famous remarkably young, and for a moment, she was everywhere. She arrived in Hollywood as a model-turned-actress, making her film debut in 1982, but it was Fast Times at Ridgemont High that transformed her into an instant cultural icon. As Linda Barrett, she became one of the most recognizable faces of the decade, and that one performance created an image so powerful that it would follow her for years. But here's the thing about Phoebe Cates. Her story was never really about one famous scene. It was about trying to become more than the image Hollywood had created around her. After Fast Times, she moved through films like Private School and then landed Gremlins in 1984, playing Kate Barringer and showing audiences a very different side of herself. The movie became a huge success, and Kate suddenly had something rare: the ability to move from teenage comedy and glamour into a major fantasy hit without losing the attention of the audience. She returned for Gremlins 2, appeared in films including Date with an Angel, Shag, Bright Lights, Big City, Heart of Dixie, and eventually Drop Dead Fred, while also exploring something she increasingly valued: the stage. Off-Broadway and later Broadway gave her a different kind of freedom, one where she could focus less on being a Hollywood image and more on actually being an actress. And that distinction mattered. By the late 1980s, Cates was openly frustrated by the limited opportunities for women in film, and she began looking beyond the expectations that had come with her early fame. Then her life started changing in a much bigger way. She married actor Kevin Kline in 1989, and as the 1990s unfolded, acting gradually became less central to her life. She continued working, appearing in films including Bodies, Rest and Motion, and Princess Caraboo, but after the birth of her children, her priorities shifted. In 1994, Princess Caraboo became her last major film role for years, and Hollywood slowly stopped seeing her because she had chosen to step away from it. That's the part of her story that makes Phoebe Cates so fascinating. Most stars spend their careers trying to remain visible. She did the opposite. At a time when her name could still open doors, she chose family, privacy, and a life away from the constant machinery of Hollywood. She briefly returned to acting in 2001 for the anniversary party, a favor for her longtime friend Jennifer Jason Leigh, but it wasn't the beginning of a comeback. It was almost a reminder that she could return whenever she wanted, but didn't need to. In 2005, she opened Blue Tree, a boutique on New York's Madison Avenue, creating another chapter completely outside the movie business. And somehow, that quiet disappearance became part of her legacy. People who grew up with Fast Times and Gremlins never really forgot her. They simply kept wondering where she went. But maybe that's what makes her story different. Phoebe Cates didn't vanish because Hollywood forgot her. She stepped away because she had found something more important to her than staying famous. Her career was brief compared with many of her contemporaries, but its cultural impact was enormous. She became an icon without spending decades trying to remain one. And perhaps that's the most surprising part of her journey. Fame usually teaches people to chase the spotlight. Phoebe Cates discovered that sometimes the real freedom is knowing when to leave it. Whether you remember her as Linda Barrett, Kate Barringer, or simply as one of the unforgettable faces of the 1980s, Phoebe Cates holds a place few stars can claim. She didn't spend her life trying to stay everywhere. She simply became unforgettable, then chose a life of her own.